Hi everyone, Mature Simmer here. So welcome back to Hobo's Hollow. Just on here at this point, it's actually pretty late at night, but one of the things I've got to do, and I've decided I've waited a little bit. Auctions have started coming up, but nothing that I need or want is operating as far as the fields that I want to expand into, and I would have been surprised if they were. The bigger problem, and I've got a ticket in for it, is this field that I own came up for auction. Obviously, I'm assuming if someone did try to bid on it, they would have been like, wait a minute, when they tried to move them in and said, this is already owned, but I put in a ticket to hopefully get that resolved, figure out what's going on so that we don't waste auction cycles on fields that we already own. So we've got the two other FMs are moved in. We've got one here with a couple fields and another here. So we're all pretty nearby. I could imagine, it makes sense because certainly, again, as we saw, there's a lot of sell points and activity up here. So I'm thinking folks may have clustered around that way simply for that access. Obviously, the FSN location is here. So this is like really centrally located between needing to get your supplies and needing to do things with the FSN custom silo and so forth, and also get your farm supplies, seeds, and so forth. But one of the things I need to do, because the time is off, is I need to go ahead and place the house so that I can adjust time. So then I can straighten things out in the morning and get things synced up, because at this point we're off by, I don't know, 8 hours? Maybe not quite that much, but it's getting really close to that. So I think I'm actually going to go ahead because this is actually less expensive than the little mobile home that I had placed before. And I'll just go ahead and place this near the road. That way it's out of the way. It's not affecting things, because otherwise I need to put it near the field. So we'll put it here. And so at this point then we'd be able to go ahead and get ourselves to sleep, and maybe someone will buy the field across the way. Maybe it'll be us. I doubt it, but this way, it's out of the way. It's kind of tucked away here, and I didn't take up any space, because otherwise, if I put it on the other sides of the trees here, I'd have issues with trying to turn around. But that gets another important thing on the farm here that I'm going to need, which now lets me at least get the server synced up, which is going to be important now that we have others on the server, so that the server time will be what they expect it to be. Alright, so the other thing I'm going to go ahead and do is I am going to move some more silage down to my biogas plant so that I can at least make a little bit more money. Haven't been here in a while because generational farming has been sucking up my time. I'm actually going to need to jump back over there tonight because I think I need to move some more silage over there before prices start to drop again. But wanted to at least get something moving on the map here. And, because I'm waiting for a crop for straw, as you can see here now, I'm going to get a little bit more of the grass that I'm pulling out replaced here. We're going to get 19,000 running through here. But I'm going to take this full trailer. Hopefully it'll fit. We're going to see, because I know that biogas plant didn't quite take as much as I thought it would with the 45,000 or whatever that I threw in there the one time to test it. I think it was like 80% full or something, so we'll see if this even takes this amount. But as far as getting cows going, that's not going to be workable until I have a field that I can get straw from. And I'm really don't want to compromise. I'm really holding out for 24. 19 obviously across the way is across the way, but would just be nice to kind of have everything together to begin with. And obviously, that little one over there would be something, but Just seems, I don't know, it's not what I had on my list of things that I want to go ahead and do, so... Alright, let's see if all of this drops in. Hopefully it will. And then we'll be able to see really what the capacity of this is. It's obviously filling up pretty substantially here. Alright, well, we've got room, so it might... It doesn't look like it would take 100, but it's more than I would have expected. That is for certain. And maybe it was 50,000 that I had put in that looked pretty full, because that would have been the forage wagon. Would have been a full forage wagon if I ran that over, and I think that's what I did. So grass is ready, but again, I don't have time to work it right now, and short of just continuing to run the biogas, there's nothing I have to do with it right now, so I'm not really pulled to go ahead and do anything. I want to see, it may have been enough months that I can't even see my finances. And we have a little bit here, so we did have some biogas income, but that may have just been the remainder. It would have been nice if there was a bit more, so I don't want to count this as a full day of income, because that may not be accurate. So I'm like, why do I have this cost? But it's putting up the building and then landscaping around it and so forth to just, again, make it fit. So it's interesting. So even though I don't run the biogas plant, actually, no, that has to be because my silage hasn't been running, so I'm thinking I'm hitting production costs of these buildings, whether they're being used or not. So I do need to keep that in mind. It's going to be a constant drain, so I should have enough moving that things make sense. So hopefully tomorrow I'll find some time to pop in here. Grass can be mowed at any point in time, so I might be able to get some more grass off the field and really get this this thing primed and ready to move, and then figure out what our biogas max is and so forth. So I'll be back in a bit with whatever comes next. Back here next day on Hobo's Hollow, and at least going to get a little bit of things moving along. So the silage I put in yesterday into the biogas plant is still being consumed. There's a little under 30,000 liters left. So that is good to know. And I did go ahead and sync the server so that things are pretty much in line at this point. So this is FSN time, as it should be based on our server settings. But I want to go ahead and get at least one load of grass into the fermenting silo, because at this point it's waiting for product. So I can then have that moving along and creating more silage and operating, rather than sitting around and waiting for me to mow. And I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to mow the whole field again. I probably can, because that will just allow me to fill the fermenting silo completely again. But on the other side, right now, if I know the biogas plant is using, you know, one load a day, you know, that's going to be, I guess, some of the challenge, is I just need to get in here daily for that to be efficient, which probably should be okay. I'm definitely going to want to try to figure out what the capacity of that biogas plant is. So I'll be doing that as well in the next bit of time. I want to say the next few hours, but like I said, I'm just not sure what I'm really going to pull off and do here. I was debating also kind of going across, but not sure. Like, it doesn't make sense to do that up in this area. And then once I'm already over that far, then it almost doesn't make sense to start going across because now it's not as wide. So I'm still kind of torn on the best way to handle this, how to handle this field. So at this point we're running, we're creating silage from the grass. We're already, you know, it's a quick thing and it's consuming, and as I said, we're here. So between yesterday and today, I've got almost $10,000 produced from the biogas plant. What I guess I haven't figured out as I sit here and think about it is, am I getting more from putting it in the biogas plant than I would just from, say, selling silage outright? I'm imagining I am, because let's say I was making $200 1,000, which would be high for silage, but it would be a good way to conservatively see where I'm at. You know, that would get me about $2,000 or $8,000, and I'm over 10, I'm approaching 11. But once again, doing that, I'm doing that on probably 43,000, so it's a little bit of a profit, but it's certainly not substantial difference. Obviously the biggest difference is wherever I would be taking silage, the biogas plant is likely closer. So as you can see, here are the silage options in the upper 180s, which, you know, January, February tends to be a high month. So now what I don't know is if someone has got a biogas plant as well, if they put that up, or if that's on the map. It was interesting to see two biogas 250s. As little as it is, at least at this point, I'm making some profit on the map, or making some income. It's going to take a while to, again, pay off that biogas plant, and that's the issue of why it really makes sense to get it producing and try to keep it producing as I go forward. Because if it's going to take 4 years just to break even on that, I don't want to have that extend longer than it needs to. 4 years is a long time. That's going to be 2 months almost, because it's really like 4.5 years. So I'm probably safely saying 2 months of real time of that thing operating before I'm going to be making money off of it officially, and I've paid off the construction costs of it. So field 13, this one here, is up for auction. So 344,592 is the starting price for that. It's going to, I should say it's upcoming. It's going to start at noon today. So we've got a few hours. One of the FMs owns 11. They may go ahead and decide they're going to bid on 13 and, you know, eventually get 12 if it becomes available, and then have those 3 contiguous fields. Not sure. I was going to go ahead, I'm going to go ahead and move to the mowing, but I forget when I power it off, it stops pouring things out. And you begin to see why I tend to operate with the lines visible, because clearly I can't tell if I'm on the line and I took off and was not. So I'm going to have a little bit of a mess here with a bigger swath and swath that's gone off to the side, so it's just going to require a little more work to pick it up. There's enough there that I don't think I want to leave it like little pieces at the end. Sometimes happen. So at this point I'm going to go ahead. You know, there's just not a lot to share of what is going on the farm here, because you're seeing it. I've got one field. I've got a cow barn that's awaiting further expansion, so, you know, in hindsight, wasn't the best thing to go ahead and spend the money on at this point. You know, really even the hayloft, I mean, really the only thing I needed was the fermenting silo and the biogas plant, because I'm paying some production costs for these other things now that aren't going to be doing anything. But as I noted in the previous piece. I'm not going to manually be trying to move bales when I've got no real way to do that. Now, I did look. There was a bale wrapper in the used equipment market, but other than purchasing it to just do something different, it doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, I'm creating silage with the silo, and I don't have to wrap it and pick it up and do all the other stuff. So you know, I'd be just creating a different type of work to get the exact same thing, because it's not as if silage bales are differently priced than bulk silage. It's silage, and that's it. And once again, I'm putting things in the biogas plant, which then creates some complexity where I might not be able to get them in there or whatever. And I've devoted way more breath and air to this than it's worth it. It doesn't make sense, even at a discount, to do that. So I'm just gonna move on, even though my brain for some reason cannot, because I think it's just being drawn to the fact that something's on sale, and therefore I should seriously consider it if it's something that I might be interested in doing. So I'm going to keep working on this grass field, and honestly, I think what's going to end up getting me to just say I've had enough is kind of the frustration of when I'm done fighting with this thing. I'm still struggling at the end of the fields to just get it moving and get it lined up. I've messed up on every end that I've turned around on, and I think at some point it'll be like, you know, I've got enough. And that's really where I have this right now, is there's not this compelling point, and I'd be remiss in saying that some of the lack of super excitement on doing this in Hobo's Hollow is I'm doing grass work over in generational farming and have determined that that's what that series will be, because that's how you do the best job in the competition there. So I feel overwhelmed and bored with grass work. I mean, I've just been doing it and doing it and doing it basically, I think, for nearly a month now, and there's been very little other than some of the single player stuff that has been anything other than that. But I also don't want to go ahead and just say purchase field 13 because it's coming up and it's kind of close. Because, I mean, it's not kind of close. It's across the river. I've got to go down the road, go across the river, whatever I'm doing over there has to be dragged over. It's one thing if I've expanded and I have all the fields in between and I'm choosing to work this mega empire, which I don't see myself going there. That would be a lot of work. And until generational farming is a thing of the past, there's just not enough time to handle that. So the growth is going to be certainly contained, just as it was before, for the same reasons that there's other things going on. You know, but at some point I may get burned out on the generational farming piece as well, and back off in general, because it's a lot when you're in doing grass every 2 days, which is one of the reasons I wasn't jumping back in here to Hobo's Hollow to immediately go ahead and do that. Now, I know that creates a situation in some cases where there's not a lot of activity on the server. We've got some FMs who are looking for some more activity going on. One of the other FMs has gone ahead and said initially when we were getting ready to move, like, they're interested in moving, because I think they're the one that suggested the map, if I recall. So that would make sense, but that at this point in time, just based in real life and whatever, they had limited time, and so they were just being upfront and letting everybody know, like, they'll be around, but they're not going to be going crazy, because on Shellbrook they had built a pretty vast empire. They had spent a ton of time clearing forest and so forth, and so I think they had gotten to the point where they had done so much work that, again, they needed to step away for a bit to make it fresh and exciting. And so in general right now, because there's only 3 of us, and I'm consumed with generational farming, you know, JP's working on whatever he's doing, but he's away. It's made the server kind of quiet, and so the other FM is a little disappointed with that, and you know, hopefully things will work out and we grow. But that's the situation we're in. I don't know that I have anything else to say on that. Can't really sugarcoat it. It is what it is. I mean, people will make their decisions based on if they're enjoying their time and what they want to get out of FSN and out of their time being entertained with Farming Simulator, which makes sense. We certainly can't hold that against folks. So rather than going on and on about random stuff, I'm gonna wrap this up right now, and I will see you next time.